The National Assembly resumes sittings today, Tuesday, 26th of May 2026, after a month-long recess that began on 1st of May. MPs are expected back in the House for the continuation of the fifth session amid anticipation over key legislative debates, the economy, the budget, and the 2026 finance bill. Right, it feels like a Friday because kesho walifanya ile kitu, lakini ni sawa tu. Karibu sana. This is a TV47 breakfast. My name is Fred Indimuli.
Kesho kuna nini? I know it's a holiday, but walifanya nini kesho?
Si wali officially gazette kesho ikuwe holiday.
My name is Annie Odida.
So even today, you're actually disoriented.
I'm chopping life with a big spoon.
Yeah, I tell you.
Once again, my name is Annie Odida and this is TV47 Breakfast. Karibu sana. Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast, hashtag story ni yetu. This is day 7 of us walking as champions in the world, globally, Arsenal champions.
We are Arsenal fans.
Au sio?
And it's official. Tunaendelea hivyo. Kama unataka kutuambia mambo mbaya, fanya hivi. TV47 Kenya on Facebook, Instagram and on YouTube where we're streaming live. On X, hapo unaweza ni tag at TV47 Digital. My handle is @Fred Indimuli. Niambie, are you an Arsenal fan? By the way.
Walikuwa nasema ati kwa nini tulienda parade kule town to celebrate Arsenal's win when a lot is happening in the country, ati marafio imepanda, mara sijui nini inafanyika wapi, lakini asisi kama Arsenal fans we are there celebrating this win. Let me tell you. Chunga sana.
You will not understand this. And pale weekend we are still waiting for the UEFA Champions League finals. Pale Pushkash Arena in Budapest, Hungary. Hiyo ikipita hivi. Mutati.
That one.
Yeah.
Yani,
and I saw people even criticizing the police wanasema, how come you allowed Arsenal fans to go to the streets and you are not even disturbing them when people go out to protest munawasumbua. Sisi ni Arsenal fans. A lot of those police pia ni Arsenal fans.
Kweli.
Yeah.
Very organized team.
Yes.
Unaona akukuwa hata na any cases of chaos, watu kuvurugwa ama nini, because we are very organized team.
And the number was huge. Yes.
Watadhani ni AI. Man United nadhani ni AI, si ndio?
Talking about police, the president has come on the spotlight over his security, given that incident that happened in Ganze, Kilifi at the weekend. Kilifi at the weekend, where someone actually went to the presidential podium, akampiga ngeta. Alikuwa anakaa nikana mpiga ngeta. Aliweka hivi mkono around his neck.
Oh yeah.
So enough people were fired or redeployed rather. There's a new team of police officers. Now, only a day after the movement, after those, the other team was redeployed. You can see that crowd. As the president continues with his tour of the coast, you can spot very many police officers there. Some in official attire, some in plain clothes. Angalia wale wamesimama karibu na gari. Sai kama unataka kuzungumzia askari, usijaribu.
Wanaweza niinua.
No, sai utainuliwa. Don't joke around with the security of the president. Even Rigathi Gachagua amesema do not joke around with the security of the president. Hiyo hatutakubali.
Lakini yenyewe hiyo nayo, that one is understandable. Hiyo hatutakubali. Na hapo watu wamekuja sana. Lakini nimesema alikuwa anakaa ni kama anampiga ngeta. See, he had a Bible or
Are you sure it was a Bible? We do not know. Police are investigating.
Well,
but anyway, there's something called the presidential space.
Yeah.
You cannot cross it. Ata nani. It's like the queen. The queen, you cannot go hug her, or the king, you cannot hug him. You're not allowed to. There's a space around him. You either stretch your hand to say hi, or you salute, ama unaongea ukiwa pale mbali. Lakini hapana enda hapo unashika president. It's not allowed. It's not allowed anywhere. I don't think... not just in Kenya, it's not allowed anywhere. But many people are saying, okay, fine. Could it be that the president himself has allowed this level of familiarity with the presidency. The way he meets people in State House, 5,000 people, 10,000 teachers, and he keeps shaking their hands and talking to them, wanacheka, anabeba watoto nini. Even just allowing that number of people into State House, could he have somewhat sent out the message that me, I'm a friendly guy. You can come close to me, you can talk to me anyhow you want. Remember, there's a president, the individual. Yes. There's a presidency.
Yeah, the individual and the seat in itself.
Yes.
But unaona hata yeye when these guys, you know, wakienda kule juu and the dais just to say whatever they want to do, to say or whatever they want to do, you hear him say achanini na yeye, achanini na yeye. So maybe, I don't know if he actually means it when he says, you know, leave them, usiwaguse.
But should they be listening to, should they listen to him, those people who are in charge of his security? Should they listen to him when he says wachana na yeye?
I think they should. I think they should. Sababu washa cross that security. It's already a security breach. They're already up there. What are you doing?
Have you ever watched any movie about the US president?
Unfortunately, I do not watch movies.
The US president, the Secret Service is allowed to do anything to that president, including pushing him under a table for his own security. Yeah. So they actually mishandle him for his own security. Yeah. So I think it should be the same. Yeah, like recently what happened to President Donald Trump at the Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah.
They pushed the J.D. Vance, the vice president, out. Donald Trump was still there. He was pushed down almost to the floor.
Yeah.
Now imagine in Kenyan situation. Something like that. What would they have done?
He's an African man.
Probably part of the team that went for the assailant, the other team should have gone for the president. Yeah? And evacuated him immediately. But hapo yeye bado anabaki akipeana instructions on what should happen to the assailant.
Leave him alone.
Yeah?
This is the third breach, right?
Presidential security. Yes. They actually, is it the Standard yesterday put on the front page that Migori incident where the shoe was thrown?
Yeah.
In Kibra where a water bottle was thrown towards the president. There's what happened in Wajir. Someone else went to the presidential podium, but they got him before he got to the president. But this one, this latest one, he actually ran and hugged the president.
Like they were ali cross that
That's
security.
the question. It's one of the biggest discussions we'll be having later on with my panel on State of the Nation. Do stand by for that. Yes.
All right. At this point, let's take a look at the state of the weather. All right, let's see how the weather's looking this morning across the country. And we start off in Nairobi. Light rains expected today and this morning is 15 degrees. Highs of 23 degrees expected in the city today. Narok, it's a mostly cloudy day, is 13 degrees. Highs of 23 degrees as well expected in Narok. Kisii, it's a mostly cloudy day. Highs of 27 degrees expected there. This morning is 17 degrees. That's as far as Nairobi, Narok and Kisii counties are concerned. Mandera, it's a mostly cloudy day. Highs of 36 degrees, so it's a very hot day in Mandera today. This morning it's 27 degrees. Kwale, it's a partly sunny day. Highs of 30 degrees expected in Kwale County. This morning is 23 degrees. And Busia County this morning is 20 degrees. It's a partly sunny day in that county, and highs of 29 degrees expected today. And that's the state of the weather.
All right. For some Tuesday inspiration, which already feels like a weekend. Kesho.
Nice.
Tutakuja kazi kesho?
I hope not. Fingers crossed.
Huyu hapendi kazi. Do we have some quote of the day for inspiration?
Life's true value isn't measured in years but in moments well spent, with meaning, love, courage, and purpose, defining a life of true richness and worth.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies and the regional dailies in depth.
right, on the dailies today, Uhuru Kenyatta is back on the front pages. At least 3 of the local dailies have his image. They've used a very old photo here of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his successor, William Ruto. But here he says, stop blame game and work. Fanya kazi. See, this is scapegoating. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta tore into President William Ruto's administration yesterday, accusing it of ignoring the suffering of Kenyans while funding tribal divisions and political distractions as the fuel crisis deepens. In a blistering attack before Jubilee delegates in Kiambu, Uhuru said the Kenya Kwanza regime had abandoned its mandate and instead turned to blame games, praise singing and dangerous ethnic rhetoric as households buckle under soaring fuel prices and a punishing cost of living. Backed by former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, Uhuru warned that divisive politics risk dragging the country back to the dark days of 2007. Now you see what has been happening in recent days. And it started off last week with the UDA Secretary General, Hassan Omar, was speaking about the fuel crisis when we had this strike by matatus. And he seemed to suggest that this was an issue of one community.
Yeah.
Surely, why one community? Then yesterday, or at least this past weekend when they were talking about, the president was in Mombasa and issuing title deeds to people there. Then Hassan Omar comes back and says, unajua kuna watu wamekuwa, hao tu ndio wanafikiria, hao ndio wanapata land, and they are to blame for the problem, the land problems at the coast. Now, people are asking, okay, why all of a sudden you've decided that one region or one community is to blame for all the problems in Kenya? Na akasema huyu, because he mentioned the Kenyatta family. For the land problems in at the coast. And alikasirikiwa sana. Na watu wengi hata wa UDA, elected leaders, Anne Waiguru responded, Kawanjiko responded, other leaders responded, including the MP for Bahati Nakuru. And they all told him, hey, you have to resign now. You have to go. But he sent out a statement apologizing. But many people are arguing now, he's not just talking for himself. Probably the others who are backing him. Now President Uhuru Kenyatta, retired president, comes out and says, hebu fanyeni kazi. Stop the blame game. Now mnataka kusema, huyu ndo alileta hii shida, huyu ndo alileta hii shida. But there are things that arise through this discussion is obvious hints at ethnic profiling. Scapegoating, as President Uhuru Kenyatta claims, like, okay, there's a crisis. But now you want to say, it is Nani, it's so and so, it's this family that is causing crisis. There's a crisis. Deal with it. And I think this is the main story. And we quote the former president saying, you insulted me and told me that you knew and understood what you were doing. Eventually you elected praise and worship men and women whose job is to sing praises to the current leadership while forgetting their mandate to work for you. He was telling the people, you must now reflect after seeing the effects of your decision. Na miambia serikali, fanyeni kazi, wachaneni na mambo mengi.
Kama kwamba unaongea sana, nyamaza sasa. Get to work.
But you know what he's suggesting is that probably you're just scapegoating to avoid handling the real issue, which is a fuel crisis. That's why mnaongea hivi to distract people. Fanyeni kazi. Na kaambia kama mnahitaji usaidizi, useme. Tutawasaidia.
Because there's a lot actually, not even fuel. Yesterday tulikuwa tunaona the deadline ya public participation and finance bill, you know. Sasa tunaingia ile season sasa ya committee debates and all. There's a lot really to just focus on. We have bigger fish to fry. Such things, you know, kama utterances that Omar are really, you know, out of order. 14 months to election. Now, when you say, you know, maybe he's not speaking for himself, he's speaking for a larger group of people. He's a leader in the ruling, you know, party. Then that means
he's a SG, he's a spokesperson of the party.
You know, Unakumbuka ile enzi Edwin Sifuna, allow me, alikuwa anazungumza, you know, for his own personal, you know, reasons, yeye mwenyewe kujiongelelea. Watu walikuwa wanasema hapana, huo ni msimamo wa chama cha ODM.
When the SG speaks, huo ni msimamo wa chama.
You know.
So whatever Hassan Omar says, should we take that as msimamo wa UDA?
Very a lot of questions there.
Yes. The other story is inside pages. Western leaders demand DP slot in 2027 plan. Hii job kila mtu anataka. Everyone wants the number 2 position. Because that means that Western Kenya is suggesting that President William Ruto picks his running mate in that region. What happens to Kithure Kindiki? What happens to other leaders, even from the Nyanza region, who are hoping for that? Yeah. So those are the stories on the inside pages. Mayo lost control of Ruto's security detail is also features there on page 8. How did he lose control? Yeah. Some have questioned the role of Ruto's aide Farouk Kibet in presidential functions protocol. And this is a question we're asking. Who should they answer to as a presidential security team? Should they answer to Farouk Kibet, the presidential aide? Should they be answering to the president? Or do they answer, yes, or the interior CS? The president's security cannot be left to him. He cannot be the one commanding how his people protect him. Yeah? Not even his aide. So who should they answer to? And I think that's where I think lines get blurred. So that story about UDA allies hinting at IBC control trigger, they said that, wengi sana, about 5 or 6 of them now who have said, ata ballots zikiwa not enough, tutajaza. Yeah? So people are wondering, okay, what exactly are you saying? That story on page 10. On the back page, of course, the mighty Arsenal, the great one. And there's a picture there that I just love. That's of Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal manager, celebrating with a Premier League trophy at a presentation ceremony on Sunday. Arteta now urges Arsenal to make history in Champions League final. If they do, why? Muna complain that kuna kelele mingi ya Arsenal. And then it coincides with 2 days later will be my birthday.
Yes.
Oh, watati.
Nabado.
Watati. All right. That's the standard this morning.
All right. It's the same headline on the front page of People Daily this morning. Uhuru to Ruto, stop divisive politics and address issues. The People Daily has captured this story on page 4. They call it a rejoinder. We've talked about it already. Other quick headlines here. Women take lead in seaweed mangroves conservation. And how safe is our president? It's another question that People Daily is asking on the front page. This story is on page 6. Na hii kitu ambayo alikuwa ameshikilia huyo mwanaume wetu wako hapo, honestly. Huyo picha is a very interesting. Can you see that photo there? Hapo kwa kona hapo mwisho. Wenye huyo mtu anajaribu, anamsukuma kweli kweli toka. And the president is very comfortable. Yeye hata ana stress. Yeah, that's the People Daily this morning.
Yeah. So amesema ati alimshika mkono ingeachiliwa angepiga ngeta. I think he thought by holding the president would tell anyone else, musimshike. No. Who's in charge of the president's security? And should the president be ordering his security team on what to do?
Yeah.
There's,
you know, we are in an era of social media and all. Allow me to say it because it's a video in the public domain. I saw somebody made a video and referenced all the security breaches that have, happened. And he was referencing the one in Wajir and now the one in Kilifi. And he put 2 photos side by side. The photo of the guy in Wajir and the photo of this guy now in Kilifi, Ganze. And what this social media user was insinuating is that this could be, the same guy. And you know what? That is not even the interesting part. Why I'm even telling you this story is because I opened the comment section just to read what people are saying. And the first comment I saw was, I do not care what you guys are saying. Rigathi Gachagua will be back and he will explain to me what is happening. Rigathi Gachagua amekemea hiyo mambo, amesema acheni mchezo.
Actually, it took a lot of time to talk about the president's security yesterday, and people wondering why. But anyway, it is an age of AI, and people alter photos a lot. So don't just take anything hook, line, and sinker. Yeah. There could be a lot of AI and manipulation of photos.
Absolutely. All right, that's the People Daily.
All right, Daily Nation. Main story, same story. Why Uhuru has renewed war on Ruto. I told you, Kenyatta asks voters not to ignore his counsel again. So bare knuckles, former President Uhuru Kenyatta has gone at his successor William Ruto, hammer and tongs, telling the Kenya Kwanza administration to address Kenyans' grievances, including the runaway cost of living, instead of using him as a scapegoat. After unrelenting criticism by government leaders, Kenyatta's allies say he is pushing back on diversionary tactics to focus public scrutiny on the administration. They've given coverage on this on pages 4 and 5. And simply what he's saying is, you are using me as a distraction. You have issues that you need to work on. Wachaneni na mimi. Yeah. How finance bill taxes will hit you. Yes, as you said correctly, now it's a season that we need to discuss budget estimates and the taxation measures contained in the finance bill. As we mentioned earlier, the National Assembly is back on recess today. This is their main agenda, the budget-making process, which is coming to an end. As you said, public participation came to an end yesterday, and as far as the finance bill is concerned, now it is including or taking some of the views you gave to include on the finance bill. Meanwhile, budget estimates are supposed to be officially presented probably next week or the week after, once we get into June. But this paper talks about the finance bill, which is going to be the main agenda, including the budget estimates. So there are some of the budget proposals in the 2026 finance bill that have been moved from zero-rated to tax-exempt status. So nile ilikuwa they do not attract any taxes. But now they will attract taxes, but they won't be subject to VAT. Ila 16% haitakuwa. Some kama miwa, cane, feeds, medicine, phones, transports. Remember, kuna ile mobile phones ile itakuwa ina attract excise duty of 25%. But now, that is imported. Locally assembled and manufactured mobile phones locally will have tax exempt, VAT exempt. Lakini inakuanga complex. Zero rated but tax exempt, VAT exempt.
Almost one and the same thing. Lakini it's not the same thing.
I think it depends on how much revenue can be collected through VAT or through other taxes. So akiona ya other taxes haifiki, ama hiyo VAT ndo haifiki, wanatoa VAT wanabaki na ingine. Right. Your story as security president also features on page 10. Internal probe revealed security lapses after a man interrupted President Ruto's address in Wajir in February. So they're going back. Alafu kuna huyu kijana anasema yeye ni mtoto wa Nderito Gachagua, the former Nyeri governor. This robber's claim that Gachagua fixed him doesn't add up according to this paper. That story is on page 2. Lies in robber's Gachagua fixing claim. You can read that. I think the biggest story near Uhuru Kenyatta on page 4 and 5. Uhuru and Wanga deal blow for ODM's ambitions for president and deputy president seats. Na jana Wanga walisema they are no longer a Linda ground. Sema kuna ODM tu. Ni ODM tu. Hakuna Linda ground. All right. On the back page of this paper, Stars signings, Ghanaian connection lifted Gor Mahia to 22nd title. Yes, even as we continue to celebrate Arsenal, a team which has also featured on the back page, Saka. We proved critics wrong with the title triumph, but now in the Kenyan Sense FKF Premier League, remember it is Gor Mahia that lifted the trophy. So they're talking about how they did it. Daily Nation.
Taifa Leo, Uhuru amgonga Ruto. Wanaita nipe nikupe. Rais mstaafu wakumbusha wa Kenya jinsi alivyowaonya dhidi ya kumchagua Rais Ruto mnamo mwaka 2022, lakini wakakataa, halafu baadaye wakaanza kujutia. Viongozi wa kisiasa wanamuunga mkono Rais Ruto nao walimrukia vikali Uhuru, wakidai kuwa utawala wake ndio ulioharibu uchumi wa taifa hili. Kule juu anasema Kenyatta wataka wa Kenya kuhakikisha wanamng'oa Rais Ruto katika uchaguzi ujao. Nipe nikupe. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa pili. Ebola imezungumziwa Kenya kati ya nchi 10 zilizo hatarini. Ugonjwa huo unaendelea kusambaa kwa kasi nchini DRC na Uganda, ukitishia kuvuka mpaka. Rais hapa kulinda eneo la Pwani atangaza serikali itatumia shilingi bilioni 5 kununua mashamba na kuwapa maskwota. Kule juu zaidi, Mudavadi na Wetangula nao wataka unaibu rais. Wamsukuma rais ateue mmoja wao mgombea mwenza uchaguzi ujao. Kwani hawajatosheka na hizo? Anyway. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa 4. Uhuru na Wanga sasa wapiga bautani mwaka ujao, watupilia mbali ndoto zao za kuwania viti vya kitaifa, sasa watetea nyadhifa zao katika county. Oburu Odinga amesema he will be defending his seat in Siaya as a senator. Sijui kama Gladys Wanga pia amesema.
Nafikiri she's going back to Homa Bay.
To Homa Bay. Sasa power ni kama power ambao wanataka ni good bargaining. Umesema nini?
Ni tofauti.
Alright. Huku chini nilikuwa nimebakisha hii ndio nirudie mwisho. Sherehe za ubingwa wa Arsenal za zidi. Mashabiki waendelea kusherehekea kwingi duniani kwa ubingwa wa ligi kuu ya EPL. Arsenal.
Na kuna nyingine inakuja. Muwe tayari.
Taifa Leo.
Let's take a look at the Star, and today being a Tuesday, it's not for sale, it is a special edition. The Star talks about health reforms, delivering dignity despite hurdles. Kidney disease, cancer, maternal care consume largest share of funds. They're talking about SHA, and the story is on pages 4 and 5. Matters health, given prominence there. As I said, it's a special paper, the Star, being a Tuesday. Kenya-linked Ebola vaccine may be tested in Uganda, say experts. Once again, a mention of Ebola. And Raila Odinga vacuum deepens crisis for Ruto and ODM leaders is another story on the Star. That's the Star. Fresh, independent, different. Today, it's free and comes with a complimentary MyGov pull-out for government tenders and job opportunities. Yes.
Amesema hiyo mambo yote mnaongea ni mambo yenu.
No. Tuesday they have a special paper.
Yeah?
Yes.
It
is a special paper, intentionally. Yes.
Ama iko ndani. Anywho, fresh, independent, different. Business Daily, Coop Bank staff now top honors after 1.7 billion shillings deal. How wind and solar are forcing Kenya Power to ration electricity. It's another story captured on page 2. And on the ticker, Ruto holds key to payslip tax cuts, that President William Ruto will make the final call on introducing payslip tax cuts in the finance bill amid they call it amid pressure from professional lobby groups to boost disposable income. And Safaricom opens M-Pesa app access to rival network users. It has updated its mobile application to allow customers using rival mobile networks data to access services like sending money. That's the Business Daily.
All right. Let's now cross over and see what's big headlines in Uganda and Tanzania. We start off with Uganda, and it's about the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly of Parliament. Daily Monitor, big headline there, in things, and we have a picture of the President with the new Speaker of Parliament and his deputy. The newly elected Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oboth, and Deputy Speaker Thomas Tayebwa have pledged to rebuild public trust in Parliament and clean up the institution's image. That story covered on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's how big it is. Last week it was all about Anita Among, the former Speaker. Now it's about the new Speaker. A bit of mention about Ebola, rising Ebola cases. How worried should we be? It's a question on the front page of the Daily Monitor. The other paper in Uganda is a New Vision, same story. Oboth and Tayebwa, that's the Speaker and his Deputy of Parliament, unveil plans. Meanwhile, Museveni has said he will sack ministers who don't promote wealth creation. See, you are corrupt nini who do not promote wealth creation, which I think is a very good move. Yeah. Let's take a look at Tanzanian papers this morning. Gazeti la Mwananchi, habari kuu pale, migogoro ardhi janga kwa taifa. Ni bomu linalosubiri kulipuka kuivuruga jamii. Vigogo wa serikali, mabaraza ya ardhi watajwa kuhusika. Mwigulu abebeshwa mzigo. Matters land given prominence there. Mention here of Tundu Lissu. Lissu abeba hatma kesi ya rasilimali. Asema msajala mdogo Dar es Salaam imewapa siku 7 wajibu maombi katika shauri la mwenyekiti wa chama cha demokrasia Chadema Tundu Lissu kujibu maombi yake, huku ikipanga kusikiliza shauri hilo Juni tarehe 2. Same story there of Tundu Lissu. Court sets June 2nd hearing on Lissu application bid. But the main story on the Citizen is about Tanzania now topping Uganda's import source on gold surge. There's more trade there. Inside Tanzania's emerging 2-tier public school system is also there. On the front page, Matters Education getting prominence in Tanzania. Those are the local and regional dailies. Turejele tuangalie Karakacha sasa. What are the cartoonists talking about?
Let's start off with the one on the Star. Wanasema from cost to cost. Cost ya pesa, from money now to cost kule Mombasani, Pwani. Right, na ni kama ametoka huko kwa ndege. Is he carrying some goodies or what is he carrying?
Yes, no, he has a burden of cost of fuel.
Yeah.
He's carrying the burden of the cost of living. He's carrying the burden of the budget making process. Hiyo mzigo ndo amebeba.
Cost to cost.
Cost to cost.
Yeah.
Na wale watu wa Mombasa huko vigogo ama the leaders at the coast wanamngojea sana. He's been there since he came back from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Hata matatu alienda huko.
Azerbaijan is Kazakhstan?
No, from Azerbaijan he went to Kazakhstan.
Okay.
And then he came home. Yeah. The cartoon on the Star talks about next elections, but now kuna jamaa pale CS Cooperatives. Anasema a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. He had been complaining about how he's been forced to be a beggar, hajaweka pesa kwa hiyo ministry yake. So watu wanamuuliza sasa unafanya nini huko? Anasema we. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Afadhali ile uko nayo sahi. Yeah. That's a standard.
All right, Daily Nation. Matters election. We will pickpocket votes. Hizo utterances, people saying they will, you know, watachukua kura. Liwe liwalo watapata. IBC inasema it won't happen, lakini they're in one vehicle.
Yani matatu imejaa sana. Hii matatu ya IBC na watu wengi sana. It's very easy to be pickpocketed if you're in a crowded matatu.
Kika vibaya manake everyone is there.
Yeah.
Opposition is there, government is there. Broad-based yote pia iko hapo. Na wale watu wa power pia. All right, these are the caricatures this morning.
We'll be talking about this and other stories that feature on the front pages with my panelists in a short while. Of course, matters to do with presidential security, the very worrying trend of ethnic profiling and other issues. We'll be discussing that. But a quick look at our roads now. Traffic this morning in and around the city. All right, Thika Road quite busy this morning, all the way from KU. Ile shule inakuanga huko mbali na town, KU. Pale Githurai 44, a bit of traffic there as well, heading towards town. A bit of traffic just before you get to Kasarani, but nothing out of the ordinary. It shouldn't worry you much. At Pale Garden City Mall, it's not so bad this morning. KCA University, the same. The only problem, kama kawaida, is there at the Pangani interchange, all the way from Utali Drift, Pale Survey, inaelekea imeshikana. Kiambu Road haijashikana leo asubuhi. At this time, it's only as you get to the Muthaiga Golf Club, ndo unapata a bit of slow traffic there if you're coming from Kiambu heading towards town. The other culprit yenye tunajua inakuanga Eastern Bypass. Eastern Bypass is a problem. All the way from Utawala heading towards Embakasi, the airport, heading towards the airport, quite long stretches of red and a bit of yellow as well as you get closer to the KQ headquarters. A bit of traffic next to JKIA, still on the Eastern Bypass. Pale interchange ya Outer Ring Road. And then as you move closer to City Cabanas. Outer Ring Road itself, not so bad, just a bit of traffic at Feather Estate. After that, it's smooth all the way. The other major tributary into the city is the Mombasa Road, but I can see all the way from the airport, it's looking green, nothing to worry about. This other side, Ngong Road, Kotuna Shida, Bali Kidogo, Junction, Prestige Plaza, City, Mortuary Roundabout. After that, unaingia town to Nyue. The road Wayakiwe from ABC Place into town is looking comfortable this morning. So shida ni ile typical traffic. Hakuna shida mpya hapa. Sijaona anything out of the ordinary. Yeah, so mwende kazi sasa. That's the traffic this morning. You know, people had said that there would be a lot of traffic disruption because probably they were anticipating that some people would still be protesting about fuel prices, but nothing much has happened this week.
Yeah.
And so kesho ni holiday. Kesho ulale tu nyumbani. Yeah.
Alafu tujipate hapa kesho. Tuambia nini watu?
Hiyo vinaambia producer, if I told you you're working tomorrow, please let it be on.
Hiyo ni wivu. Hiyo ni jealousy and it will choke you, let me tell you. That is malice. That is anyway, malice okay. and it will burn you.
Remember, you will not come to work tomorrow.
Koma kabisa.
All right, let's link up with our reporter on the streets, Muthoni Brenda. Good morning, Muthoni. Where are you coming to us from this morning and what's happening there? Modhoni, watu wanasemaje kwa hizo mabarabara za kuja town asubuhi ya leo?
So much. A very good morning to you, Fred Indimuli and Ann Odida. We are coming to you live from the Muthaiga Square Junction. I don't know if my camera person can just pan to show you how Thika Road Superhighway is looking. And if you can see, traffic is just starting to build up. And the map indicates that traffic is starting to build up at bottlenecks past Githurai. If you're coming into the CBD from Mombasa Road, it is showing moderate yellow to orange delays inbound towards the CBD. And there is a steady crawl past General Motors, but there are no major incidents locking up the highway. Forward to the viewers who are coming from Ngong Road and Naivasha Road, there is a critical caution zone here due to ongoing nightly asphalt works. Yes, there is some bit of construction happening around Hapo Junction Mall. So you can expect some narrow lanes and lingering diversions. And if you're using the Nairobi Expressway, it is completely clear if you are willing to pay the premium to fly over the city's lower level morning hustle. So that is how traffic is looking, Fred Indimuli and Ann Odida. A very good... So that is how traffic is looking. When you do these live links, sometimes citizens can catch you off guard. But that is how traffic is looking this morning. Fred Indimuli and Ann Odida. Back to you two in studio.
All right, Brenda. And Ann is back. Anasema ati kesho yeye anakuja kazi peke yake. Wewe utakuja kazi kesho? Ani kama janisikia hiyo.
Anyway. Unasema nonsense.
Thank you so much, Brenda, for that update on the traffic situation in and around the city. We'll be linking up with you later on for more updates.
Unaona Brenda hata anashangaa mtu ananiambia nini.
Kesho utapewa traffic update na Brenda ukiwa hapa studio.
All right. Let's take a break. Do interact with us on our socials. TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 Digital. Remember to use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast. Hashtag story ni yetu, manake story ni yako, story ni yangu, na story ni yetu. My handle is at Annie_Dida.
Mine is at Fred Indimuli. See you after the break.
At 8:30 p.m.
Good morning.
You have my rent?
Leo jioni kama tutakuwa tumelipa rent, nauza hii simu yako.
Hamna pesa. I need 3 G's to make my nails today.
Sasa hivi natuhusu aje?
Can I order now? Do you ship? Can I get blinking ones?
Mimi nilikuwa na trade. Nimewekelea kitele yangu. Kitele yangu na trade. Ikikunyuma.
Oh my God. You left me. Nitumie ni line.
Uko nje kuna wifi.
Why? High five?
Wait, so what do we call this dish again?
I have no idea.
The cucumbers are there specifically for my beauty routine.
Tamulini kero umeka kwa beauty product.
Na ameenda.
Tunafaa tukuwe na logo yetu. Like, si ni brand already.
You won't entertain divas. No. I'm not dealing with a man child.
Amazing. Nishapenda hii energy.
Sundays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Booyah! We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in East and Central Africa. and its environs.
Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on TV47. Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
Surely. Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair. It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm. This place is run by structure. Structure. It is a system, ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Noted.
What are you planning? To escape from a resort?
This is not a resort, my friend. This is a storage.
Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47.
I just want to be in the zone.
Nairobi, where the hustle never sleeps and neither do the scammers.
Link Up, we are talking about something that's affecting all of us. We are talking trust.
We're diving into the campus life.
I just want to be in the zone.
Stay fresh, stay safe,
Stay linked up.
My father used to tell me that a hotel is the home for travelers. I guess I forgot that. Recently, it's been more of a mirror of my own ambition. Ooh, yeah. We might fail. We will probably fail, but not for a lack of trying. So for the last time, and the first time, welcome to Connect In, the best experience in Eastern Central Africa and its environs.
This is a very serious place.
I see that.
Surely. Hey, Nyumba.
This is the place.
Just for a few days.
Rule number 2.
Kwani Google inajua maisha yangu wewe?
That's my seat.
It's a chair. It was hers.
You're new here?
Yes.
You learned the rhythm. This place is run by structure. Structure. It is a system, ni venye tu ni system haisikizi.
And what happens if something you haven't chosen enters your day?
I remove it.
That's not always going to be possible here.
Then you are going to have a problem.
Juicy Juni.
All right, good morning once again. Welcome back. This is TV47 Breakfast with me, Freddie Ndimoli. Time for us to take a look at the big discussions, including some that own the headlines and some that are not. One of the big talking points this week has been breach of presidential security. This has happened quite a number of times. The frequency is getting higher, and the latest happening in Ganze Kilifi at the weekend that forced or resulted in the redeployment of some of the top officers in the presidential security team. Allow me to welcome one of my guests this morning, Wakili Joshua Kipto. Karibu sana, Wakili.
Asante.
Now, so many things do arise. Of course, the obvious concern about the president's direct security, issues of systemic failure in presidential protection. We'll be listening to what even the former Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, has to say about this. Political and security implications, Ruto's personal style versus protocol, because I think that's also one of the biggest discussions, the big talking points. But do you really feel it was a failure directly of the officers who are in charge of the president's security, or do you think there's another problem?
So thank you very much. I think this security breach that happened over the past week, I don't think it happened in isolation. Why I'm saying so, I think even in the glare of the media, you've seen not once but twice or thrice cases of lapse when it comes to presidential security. One thing that you have to contend with, if you remember the retirement benefit bills for the president, you could see the scale of security around a sitting president and even a former president. You could get the figures that for a former president talks about numbers like 60, 70 security officers. If you talk about a sitting president, you're talking about triple or quadruple that number, where you have at any time during a presidential visit, you have between 200 to 300 police officers. I will not be particular on the numbers, but these are officers trained strictly to handle presidential security, movements, and what have you. And it is the sole responsibility. And for me, it comes from a point of, these are kind of a work that you don't have any lapse, because it's not every minute of the day whereby your concentration must be pinpoint. There are several aspects of the kind of work. There are times when the sitting head of state, for example, is in a standstill, possibly in a dais, or in other instances in a movement. They are sufficiently trained. Kenya is known within the region of having a very competent, trained special security, and this one was a major lapse. It comes at a backdrop of the previous one that happened early this year in Wajir, where someone ran, in fact, from the back across the dais and could only be tackled upon reaching the president. The one that happened this past week was worse, because actually the president was speaking and could see someone coming, and you could see he was taken aback. A comparative analysis was done. Previously, Uhuru was in Lamu and someone tried running, but could only get to 10 meters. And I remember, even if you see that clip, the President Uhuru then mentioned, watu wako na mambo. And then he said, peleke pole pole. I've seen under the Kibaki time pia, such incidents have happened. So for the case of the president, those lapses are very serious. And the president has been trying to play it cool, because you could see in both instances, he stops and intercedes for the persons.
That in itself, many people say, is a problem, because who directs or commands the structure of presidential security? Is it the president?
No, the presidential security has its own. That's why you have an escort commander, and they don't take instructions from their client. This is their client. This is their target. This is their work. So he cannot tell them. They have an ability and a mandate, for example, to tell him off and say, sir, we are not going to this place. And it's not just Kenya, it's a security service detail elsewhere. If I'm to pick from the US, which is mostly the most obvious one and the flashy one around, if you look at the Secret Service for the US presidency, they have given documentaries how they even mutate depending on the client, because they call their client, the president, their client. So they don't look at him from a point of, he's the one.
He's not the president.
No,
he's the client.
He is the client. So for them, you'd always see they mutate. How they handle, for example, Obama is not how they're handling Trump, because they two have different styles. Trump is unhinged, in one or another, controlling may be a problem, but they have not failed. Why have they not failed? Because they don't take instructions from the president. Same, I think, for any Kenyan president, be it from Moi to Kibaki and the rest. And you know, the sad part for what happened, if you look at the clip that happened, there's a case that someone actually came and wrapped his hand around the president. So, you know, you can be superstitious and say, okay, if the person was armed with a knife, 100% he has it. 100% he has it. Because the reaction time before which the security guys came on board, it was too late. And the president was even chasing after, saying, okay, leave him alone.
It's the style of the president vis-a-vis protocol that we want to talk about now, because, as you said, even in the case of the Secret Service, they mutate to fit the style of each head of state. But in Kenya, they also have to respond to the style of this president. He's very different from Mwai Kibaki or even from Daniel Moi. But his style, and he has over time expressed a willingness to open up the presidency, open up State House, get closer to the people, be a more visible president. Don't you think that in that he has created even a problem for his own security team? I
don't think the president differs much from Uhuru. Why do we forget Uhuru used to like even dancing and mingling with people? It's only that President William Ruto does more of it. He's freestyle and flows with the energies. But again, as I've said, you are trained to adapt to the client you have. So what happens? Their job when they wake up in the morning, I would imagine they do their formations, they do their simulations, and they even, because every time there's a presidential visit, I have been involved in quite a number of presidential events, they are always on site 2 weeks in advance. You don't think the president will show up in a place, wake up in the morning and say, I'm showing up in a place. It doesn't work like that. The advanced team is mostly run by special protection. They're always in sight even a month before. And by the time you see, especially, let me use the most vulnerable ones when the president is walking in market centers and open spaces. There was one clip. He
does a lot of that.
A lot of that. There was one clip where he was almost being crushed by a crowd in one of the affordable house launching in Eastlands. They have already put that into consideration. That is their bread and butter. When they wake up in the morning, if it is said the president is going to do the following visits, the route maps are done 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance. It is discussed rigorously between officers, even his handlers. They will even go do simulation on the field themselves until they are certain that from the close protection team, from the aides, from the administrators and everyone, even Ngao now takes center stage because whatever the national provincial administration are considered to own the space because they are there full time. So you will find this close coordination. A presidential visit is such a monumental task for government officers because every part of government moves. So that by the time you see a president coming to a space, whether it's a rally or anything, all those simulations have been done. The reason why you saw them taking action of literally overhauling the entire presidential security, because for them it's everything. You don't get these chances every day.
It is a direct failure of their part.
Big one. Actually, it is a case of, they did a quick review. If you saw the statement from the IG, they say this is not the first time. And this one was worse because the president was caught.
Yes.
Because the guy actually wrapped his elbow around the president. And you could see the time, it almost took 5 seconds before the nearest team. And you could see they were literally scrambling because they almost even hit the president as they were running to whatever to hold him. So at the end of the day, reason why this is a big deal, and you could see the IG and the deputy IG coming in strongly and say we are changing all that, it is a case of others you can excuse. There are several instances where someone can run, but most of the time none has ever come to 15 or 20 meters from the president.
It's caught before.
Way before, like actually the president will see it from far. And that is even considered a lapse. But for someone to come and touch the president, not the first time, but the second time,
that's
and other instances.
100% failure.
100% failure. And I think you give credit to that professional acceptance within the service. They can fail on other things, but on this one you could see they accepted that there was a problem.
Don't you think that the president has contributed to that somewhat? That the fact that he wants to be seen to get very close to these people. Even when he walks, when he shakes hands with the people at a construction site and is having conversations, that by doing so, he's made the security around him a bit relaxed, because this is the style of the president.
I will give a yes and no answer. I'll say no because a president is not more or less like a robot. A president is human enough to always want that human kind of touch. Number two, President William Ruto's style of politics is the one that has contact, human contact. And he's not the first to do that. Like as I've said, Uhuru was that. Kibaki was the one who there wouldn't be any form of interaction. In fact, Kibaki's was handshake and that's it. But if you see, I can compare the fourth and the fifth president having similarity. Uhuru actually used to be very happy going.
Hugging people.
In fact, Uhuru was worse. Because if you remember, he would even just pull you and just say hi to you. There was a lady who he pulled and say hi to. Now, President William Ruto style of doing politics, as you've said, has the aspect of human contact. Remember, he sold his campaign from being this ordinary person who rose to the gates of power that no one ever expected him to be there. So he has to maintain that. He can't change that. He cannot now wake up and say, now I'm out of touch. No, he has to. Importantly, what are the events he does? He does whistle-top campaigns on top of the motor vehicle. Number two, he goes right into the spaces where he can sell his message of Mama Mboga and market areas. How do you sell that if you don't interact with people? So
you feel he'll continue with the same style of politics to the end?
Because that is now the work of security, as I've said, look at this. Every time a president goes to a visit, as I've said, 2-3 weeks advance. I've been lucky to be even in travels where you see like a foreign travel. Advance team goes to site a month or 3 weeks in advance. Like that's their job. The team is split into two. There's a team that will be advanced and they will sit there until and when the president arrives, where he sleeps, what he does, what he eats, every single thing. Because presidency is an institution. So the reason why I'm saying, I don't feel it's a question of an individual who should dictate. No. Moi was more powerful and more engaging with the people. How many times did you see videos of Moi's car stuck in mud?
The space around President Moi was, you couldn't see anyone get
Thank you very much.
President.
So it's about competence of the security around you. Because if you are to use that concept of saying...
Why is it not about the style? Because I'm feeling like the president has opened up the space around
because that
to
is
everyone.
Because that is his style. And let me show you how.
Should it be left to him to decide the space around him?
His style, it is up to him. But the security around his style is not up to him. So, for example, let me give an example. You've seen him doing events in State House. The president has been hosting delegations in State House. Do you
Over 10,000 people.
Yes, do you remember the time he hosted young people? There were almost 15,000 people. And he was literally walking between them. What is the difference then? The security setup was so pinpoint, no one could stand. Where you are told, once you sit, no movements. And you know, they have several formations. I'm not a security expert to explain all those formations. There are various formations. They are all over. They are crawling over the space. There are those that you see that are suited, but they are plainclothes. In fact, plainclothes are more. And their job is to always see any movement. And you know, they have been trained to always see even more or less like side eye. Any slight movement attracts their attention. The alertness is what sells. So, despite the style of the president, despite the movement of the president, despite the interactions of the president, everything is vetted. Lastly, remember, when a president gets to a space, there was always an advance vetting of people who come before them or who sits around the president. Let me use, for example, in this case, he was in a dais. You would have given an excuse if it was in the field, where he was in the market or anything. That would be, yes, we couldn't control the crowd. But this one, he is in a dais. By the time you see sitting arrangements, they are marked and tags given. When you see people seated across board, that has already been sorted. 3-4 rows completely covered. No one sits by chance. In a presidential event, you just don't wake up and say, I'll come sit here. That's already covered. So the reason why I'm saying the style is one thing. And for me, it's a question of adaptability. Just like lawyers, for example, we face different clientele. How you deal with the client, it is dependent on the nature of the client. There's a quarrelsome client that you'll realize first thing you have to manage is anger. You don't disappoint on time, deliverables, and then manage the anger. There are those clients that are very quiet, they're very suave, their job is deliverables in terms of just do the job. So it is a question of you adapting to the client. And as we've agreed with you, it is not the call of the president to make as to how his security...
Do you think they can stop him, his security, stop him from doing some of these things?
100%.
It's 14 months to the general election. The president will be out campaigning. 100%. The frequency of his interactions with people, 100%, will definitely go higher.
When it comes to their work, they don't take instructions from him. Escort commander is the one who gives the instruction. And for them, if they analyze a situation where they feel it's no longer safe, they don't ask the president. They calmly tell him, sir, we have to go.
This you cannot do.
And I think it has happened so many times. You are whisked, like you're literally whisked off stage. So let me give an example where I'm saying that it's not a unique thing. Macron was in town 2 weeks ago. He was doing the same thing. Same thing, what president is doing. Macron went to basketball court. He was in the University of Nairobi. He was interacting. You could see even... But every movement you could see, the moment he stands up or appears to gesture, you see movements of his team. Their eyes, their movements, so it's not unique. Number two, the presidents that were here, how many were they? Almost 30. And you could see the alertness of their respective team, even where there was a clash. There was one video that almost trended between Egyptian and Senegalese presidential security detail. But you could see how calm they were and how they were handling their bosses, that even Diomaye Faye did not know what was happening behind him. Because you could see competition between LCC bodyguards and Diomaye Faye security, whereby somehow they almost pushed Senegalese president. But you could see his team was so intact that they were pushing each other with the Egyptian, but in a very calm way that even he needed the particularness of camera to pick that something is happening. But you couldn't see it, you couldn't feel it. And that's a space whereby, one, you have clash of presidential security guards. Number two, you have different presidents. Number three, there are different jurisdictions. Egyptian is Arabic, the other one is French speaking. Then you're in an English speaking country. How comes that lapse couldn't happen? Because that is their everyday job.
All right. The security of the president, or rather the breach of security of President William Ruto, a big talking point. It's taken a political angle. The former deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, talked about it at length yesterday. Actually, he really spent quite some time talking about this. Let's listen to what Rigathi Gachagua had to say about the president's security.
I have, as a responsible leader, refrained for a very long time to discuss matters surrounding the security of the person of the president. Because I thought that if I told people that the president is exposed and there are so many lapses surrounding his security, probably I would endanger his security, which is against national interest. I want to say the DCP and our leaders want William Ruto out of office. But we want him out of office through the ballot next year. We don't want him out of office through any other method. The security of the president, his safety, and his well-being is a very important ingredient of our political stability as a country. It is key to national security. The president of Kenya, no matter how unpopular he is, must be safe. And he must be properly protected. Because if anything was to happen to him, we would have a crisis of unknown magnitude. Not long ago, on the eve of 6th April 1994 in Rwanda, a plane carrying Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana and the Burundian President was shot down in Kigali, Rwanda. And what followed after was genocide. More than 2 million people were massacred. Rwanda has never recovered simply because 2 presidents from the Hutu ethnic community were brought down. It is very irresponsible and reckless for the government to play around with the security of President William Ruto. President William Ruto is very unpopular, I agree, but I must admit, in my own estimation, he enjoys the support of nearly 2 million people. If anything was to happen to President William Ruto through recklessness, there will be political instability in this country. I, Rigathi Gachagua, do not want instability in this country. We have no other country and we don't want instability. We want William Ruto to be safe. We want William Ruto to be alive and to be well. We want to have the opportunity to humiliate him in the ballot.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua taking quite some time to address this issue of the breach of security of the president. And we're now joined on set by Advice Mundalo, who's a leadership and communications expert. Karibu sana Bwana Mundalo.
Asante.
And questions do arise about even that response by the former deputy president. Is it political fodder, or do you see, even from a communication standpoint, that he has genuine concerns about the security of the president?
Thank you very much, Fred, for having me here. I think political fodder or not, from a strategic standpoint, I think that was quite strategic of Rigathi Gachagua to actually make that response. One, it portrayed him in light that many people don't see him more or less as a statesman, because I feel like the one thing that came out very openly on the day that there was that breach in security is that all Kenyans actually came out to say this should not happen. It was not a question of 1 term or 2 term. It was not a question of which side do I support. It was a question of all Kenyans were in consensus that this is actually wrong. That actually just showed us how heavily we actually place our importance on the office and the institution of the presidency. So for me, I really think it was a good thing for Rigathi Gachagua to actually come out and put out that statement. Whether he was doing it for his own political expediency or not, it came out in good light, because it just he was just being able to resonate with what the rest of the Kenyans were actually saying, that, you know what, we must be able to ensure that the president is protected at all times. And it's not just because of the person of the presidency, but the institution of the presidency. Because I agree with him that anything happens to the person holding that office, then you cannot be able to foretell what then happens to the rest of the country, because it's not just an individual, it's actually an institution. Right. So for me, it was actually very good that he came out to do that. I was hoping that many other leaders would also be able to come out and do that, because it has not happened for the very first time. This breach is, I think, happening now for the 5th or 4th time around there. And I think someone needed to address this matter.
Right.
Because like for this particular one, it was not just a question of someone attempting to get at the president. This was a question of someone actually got to the president. Actually, the president himself saw the person before the security did. And you could be able to see him a bit startled in his speech and almost having a moment of saying, what's happening here? And this guy actually comes up to him. He has time to wrap his hand around the shoulder of the president. I think it's about almost 5-second split before you see the first response. I think that showed us that there is actually a problem with the security system around the president. I think in my own estimation, which I might be wrong, I think that the president's formula of dealing with people, he is so close to the people and he wants to interact so much and he's so easy with people that sometimes his security also forgets that they are not supposed to be just part of the people and they should not just be causing to the easiness of the president, but they should be remembering that they should be doing the work of protecting the president.
How does he change that 14 months to election?
And he's not supposed to change it, because that is the person, that's the character of the president. He's the one who will get. And you can be able to see even yesterday, Fred, you sometimes you learn that we learn nothing from history. When the president was interacting in the markets in Mombasa, you wouldn't feel like he had
just carrying babies.
Yeah, he was carrying babies, and that is him, because we don't prescribe the type of person we must have at State House. This is the president who wants to interact with his people. So it is your duty as the security to ensure that you formulate the security at your best, so that it can take care of him. It is not about you changing the president to your format, because if it's that, then security is very easy. Then anyone can do it.
Do you think that that's what happened, that they adopted to the style of the president, became a bit reluctant, even with the crowds? We've seen the number of crowds, the kind of crowds that go to State House.
Yeah.
10,000 people, 15,000 people.
Yes.
Don't you think that's a risk as well?
Yeah, and that's, I'm saying, you see, the president has to operate the way he wants to operate. But you as the security must be able to adapt to the operations of the president. It's not the other way around. It's not the president who changes for you. It is you who must ensure that this kind of president, this is not a laid-back president. This is a president who wants to, you could be able to see even President Uhuru Kenyatta at some point used to drive himself sometimes around town. So it is your job as the security to ensure that whatever he does, he is safe. You must not be able to work in such a manner that you want the president to work on your terms so that then he is safe. Then your work will be very limiting.
Yes.
Because the issue is that the president is easy with people. The president wants to interact with people. The president will be, and I think that character of his security, instead of adapting to protecting that character of the president, they also are easy up to the president. And so sometimes also they become part of the spectacle. They are also watching him.
I've seen part of the coverage of that story that some people are even complaining that the people around the president, some of them are too powerful and have too much influence over anyone handling the president. People like his aide Farouk Kibet, and he could probably be influencing or otherwise the action of the presidential escort unit.
I think that is that may not be true if you are to judge by the facts. Farouk Kibet was powerful for a long time, being the aide of the president and who could dictate. Mostly he was very critical in program control and he would dictate who talks, what time and all that. But since the president assumed the office of the presidency, why would you not see him now? Because there's been quiet acceptance about the presidency being an institution with a complete protocol team. And in fact, if I'm not wrong, Farouk Kibet has become even more of a political aide in the sense that you find him active in the field. If you saw Malava by elections, he was the principal person delivering for UDA. At the moment, he's vying for parliamentary seat in Turbo constituency. And the past 1 year, 2 years, I don't know when was the last time you saw him, because he's very visible.
He was actually at the coast and sitting very close to the president.
So that has changed over the time, whereby he no longer dictates who speaks and all those kind of things. He can only be of help because he understands the movements of the president. He is always pinpointing in getting timely programs to run. That has always been Farouk Kibet's space. Number two, even if you were to use that, have we then say, why don't we say then he's been competent? Because when he was absolute in dictating anything and everything around the president, especially when he was a deputy president, we never had these breaches. Now when the president has a complete detail that runs the entire operations, and Farouk basically nowadays, in fact nowadays I'm happy for him, he sits more and listen. Because previously, even when I was a speaker, I remember Farouk never used to sit, because his mind was always up and going. One, the president will tell him, you have 45 minutes here. As to how everything will fit into the 45 minutes, it's up to him. And he's such a hands-on person. Farouk is one person you'd always see dictating. He will tell you 2 minutes, and he means it 2 minutes, because once the 2 minutes are approaching, he walks to you and takes over. But that has always been his space. He never even used to bother much about the security, but because of his awareness and his time management skills around the president, it used to work. So if we were to use that analogy, then you would say he was more efficient then, because we never had any breaches.
Security matters.
Then we can say, because if the accusation is that people like, because Farouk does not control the security detail of the president. I don't think, Fred Mbuli, that anyone can control. These are trained people. It's a manual applied across the global sphere. I don't think Kenya is a standalone. Museveni is a strong man, but he has no control about his security detail. That is their job. As I've said, they look at him as their client. It is who they wake up to and sleep thinking about. And as I've said, if it was a question of ad hoc, we would have had so many breaches, so many problems. And okay, let us also give them a bit of some flowers. The breaches, because they are expected to be so perfect like Caesar's wife, such a breach becomes a whole big story. But if you were to then be objective a bit and step back away from these 1 or 2 incidences, how comes they have succeeded to contain the president the past 2 years, where he literally walks in the middle of a sea of humanity? Not once, not twice. Every time they are launching affordable housing, it's always countless number of people. Every time the president is launching the market, whatever the market projects that are running parallel to the affordable housing, every time the president is addressing, have you ever seen where the president normally addresses? Like if he comes to Nairobi, he goes straight into Gikomba, whereby there's no even exit entry. In fact, yesterday I saw some analysis that was being done where they have all gumboots, and they say at least the president with the gumboot, it will be understandable because they've gone to a muddy place, but not for the security. And you could see some were in their police boots that can still function as such. So I can give them a bit of flowers that by far and large, to show you that no one controls them, they have always effectively handled worse scenarios, worse situations where many people are. But on this one, the reason why they're getting a flack on this one is because this should be the easiest bit, because it's an organized setup. The dais is there, there's space. Have you ever seen
failure?
Have you ever seen how the presidential dais is organized? The space between even where the president sits, and the president is never squeezed. There's always a 1 meter rule or some 1.5 meter rule between even him and the deputy president. So you'll always see there's a seat, there's a space, there's a seat, there's a space. Then where the aide sits, the security formation around him is visible. In fact, dignitaries always, every president, when they come to a space, they are given more positions for their security. And then even where he speaks, where people will speak at more or less like either on the left or the right, but on the side, not in front. And then you'll find a distance of around 15-20 meters. And then where the president speaks will be just ahead. So all that has been put into consideration. So you can't then expect...
Let's consider the other side. Let's consider the other side advice. That over time, and there's one generation that has witnessed how close presidents can get to the people. And now they feel that this is one of their own, and the presidents have encouraged this. Older people would tell you that President Moi enjoyed a lot of space around him. No one could even go close to him. President Kenyatta the same, Mwai Kibaki the same. But once Uhuru came in, and now Ruto, people feel that, uni boys wangu.
That was the Obama effect.
I can come to the stage and talk to him, he'll protect me, and we've seen the president trying to protect the same. Don't you think that that is also a problem that this security team have to deal with? That national psyche is that, this is a guy we can talk to anytime.
You see, there has been an attempt to demystify the presidency. And this started from the President Uhuru time. You remember when we were trying to move away from a time when Kenyans used to look at presidency as lordship. So to some extent, some of the reasons sometimes why the lapses would not be as heavy during previous times is also because attempts were very little, because already there was a psychological defeat that already you've been wired to believe.
You can't go close.
That you can't even imagine, leave alone going. Imagining going close alone was treasonous. So already there was a psychological defeat already in the people. So there would never be a time when somebody would be able to make such kind of attempts. And probably that is the reason why we would be able to sit here and imagine that those security guys at the time were extremely meticulous. But also it might also be because the attempts of such magnitude were also very limited. And we also rarely had instances where you would be able to see presidents, for instance, walking inside people, dancing and all that. This demystification of the presidency started with President Uhuru Kenyatta, trying to make the presidency closer to the people to get to understand that this is just your office. Now it has even become more with President William Ruto, who is saying, look here, State House is actually a house of the people. It belongs to you. It's not some sacred tool somewhere that only belongs to the high and mighty. It's not a place that only some type of people of a certain class should be. So we are opening it up, and so we are having droves of thousands of people there. You were able to see the UDA aspirants meeting. Recently we had the clergy from Bungoma and all that. So this demystification is also being able to show the people that, wait a minute, we can actually want to talk to this president. Look at the president's interaction with people at the Nyota program with the young people. You must also note keenly, Fred, that the people running to the president are all young people. Okay? All of them.
Gen Z.
All of them are Gen Z. So this is also a generation that has not grown with that kind of defeat mentality that millennials and the people behind
you see, this
there.
is a positive thing. You can run to the president anytime you feel like, because you know you can talk to him.
It is a positive in my view in regard to how the president has handled it. He has made the people and the young people see that, hey, I am here and you can actually have a conversation with me. They have been able to see, Fred, that someone would get to the president and the president would buy him a motorbike and the president would be able to upscale their business. They have seen their colleagues' lives transformed, courtesy of getting close to the president.
Right.
And remember, the president has also been very smart and intelligent in handling these situations. He has never admonished them.
Yes.
He has not been able to...
But we do not know what happens after
that we do not know.
Yeah.
But you see, what we know is what happens before the camera. That even in this one that was the riskiest, what did the president say? The president said that this one is trying to behave like Fikirini. He's trying to say that when opportunity comes, you must be able to take care of it. So when he says that, the other people and the other young person behind there also feels like, wait a minute, okay, it is not as bad as I may imagine. I might also try it next time.
Wait,
and you look at the gentleman in Wajir, probably the gentleman in Wajir, the circumstances that happened, what happened to his life after? Probably.
We do not know.
We don't know.
A word of advice. Think twice before you attempt some of these things. We do not know what happened to all these people after that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get the feeling on the ground on this same thing we are discussing. Modoni Brenda is on the ground. Modoni, what are people saying with regard to this recent breach of presidential security?
A very good morning to you once again, Fred Indimuli. And to answer your question about me coming to work tomorrow, it depends who is asking. But tomorrow we'll be having the Eid al-Adha celebrations na tutapanga na producer ni Mjamo Mary Washuka. Nione kama ataniruhusu I mix business with pleasure kidogo. Tuone what we'll be having for our viewers tomorrow for the Eid al-Adha celebrations. But here at the CBD, watu wameamka, the conversations that are already ongoing. Na watu wameshaanza kuongelelea the incident that happened yesterday regarding the presidential security. Now with me here, I have the chairman Bunge la Mwananchi. Na nitaanza na wewe. Good morning. You're live on TV47. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us. So yesterday kulikuwa na incident pale ambapo many Kenyans felt that the president's security was a bit threatened. What is your opinion on that?
Okay, my opinion on the issue of security of the president. First of all, you have to note that the security of the president is paramount. And you know, we have to start with the security of the president so that as we go down to the normal mwananchi. And the way I view being the president, me being the person of the people, you like to mingle with the people. But then the security should note that it is very, dangerous just to live or to note that people coming around him without, knowing who is this person. Because, you cannot know who is coming, who has maybe a weapon, can injure the president. And you see, it can imagine if the president is injured or is, damaged, his life. Now the country will be at turmoil. And what we need is, stability of this country. So I will urge the security, team of the president as a whole to come, to put the house in order so that, not everybody just going to hug the president, going to do what, and that might bring something that, if the president maybe dies, that will bring instability in the country. So as we start with the presidential escort, we know all these people, they know. I don't see how somebody can just emerge from the crowd, running around up to the president. We have that ring that, give the president the security. So
you welcome the decision to change the presidential?
Yeah, very much. Because maybe these people now are sleeping on the job. We need the president to be secured so that every Kenyan can now feel being secured.
Thank you so much. Wacha tusikie maoni ya kijana hapa. Thank you so much. A very good morning to you. Habari yako?
Mzuri sana.
Maoni yako kuhusu what happened on Sunday. It was on Sunday, by the way, not yesterday. It happened on Sunday. Maoni yako ni yepi kuhusu what happened to the president on Sunday?
Asante sana kwa majina, naitwa Boni Speaker. I'm the speaker Bunge la Mwananchi National. So, kwa maoni yangu, and I'm speaking as a staunch member of DCP.
Ndio nimeona kwa kofia yako.
Kwa maoni yangu, the presidential security is paramount. We cannot joke about it, no matter the side of the political divide you are in. That's why my party leader yesterday insisted that we need the president alive as much as possible for us to prove him politically he was wrong. So, tukiona security yake inachezewa sisi, tunakwaruzika kwa roho because we need him alive. For one, he's a symbol of national unity, that is one. Second, politically, he is my enemy politically, but his brother is sitting in Madu, but we want him alive. That's why I welcome the changes that happened kwa the presidential escort unit. Sababu, we cannot be having goons masquerading as experts in security matters. Sababu tu mtu amekuingiza mkuru kwa jenga sijui anavaa magogoes ya welding, then you get comfortable. So Ruto, we have been telling you since the word go. Your inner circle is rotten, it is joking, na inacheza na wewe.
So you insist the president must be kept safe?
Yeah, absolutely, he must be kept safe. Yeah. Na hiyo change ifanyike. You must have people who are competent. If at all the military sees hii ni mchezo, let the military take over.
Thank you so much. And if you can see behind me, friend Indimuli, the discussions are happening here at Bunge la Mwananchi, and we'll be going to them in a bit to just understand what they have to say about different topics that have made headlines. Back to you in studio.
All right, thank you so much, Modoni Brenda. And it's interesting, the kind of sentiments people, I think, unanimous on this issue. The president has to be protected. And no one, not even himself, has to direct the presidential escort unit. It is their job, and they failed, and they were redeployed. I'd like to welcome more people to the panel this morning. Joshua Nyamori, an advocate of the High Court. Karibu sana wakili.
Thank you, Fred.
And Arnold Maliba was a party leader, Progress Plus Alliance. Karibu sana. We've discussed this thing at length, so I'll just give you probably a minute and a half each to contribute to this before we move to the other issue. We're talking about the style of the president, that this opening up of the presidency, demystifying the presidency. There are people who feel that that is part of the problem, that President William Ruto and probably even his predecessor getting too close to the people, and they've contributed to this understanding that, yes, I can go shake the president's hand, I can hug him, and that is part of the problem. Wakili.
Yeah, I don't think that that's part of the problem. I think, you see, President William Ruto ran on a very clear, mandate to demystify government. The hustler nation was to make even the presidency accessible to the people. And so in his nature, true nature, the president would always want to reach out to the people, would always want to allow people to reach out to him and interact with the common man where the common man is. And but then the challenge is that we must differentiate between President William Ruto, the accessible politician, leader who is empathetic, who wants to know, feel the pulse of the nation and engage directly with the common person, and the presidency as a symbol of national unity that must be that belongs to the republic and therefore must be protected. And then we have, you know, grave examples from around the world of open, accessible leaders who, you know, got hurt and even died, not from attacks from known enemies, but rather from their access to the republic. I always give the example of 1995, when Yitzhak Rabin walked into a crowd of Israelis, and you know, there was intelligence that you know, there was a planned assassination, but the entire presidential guard and Mossad, for that matter, was looking all round for an Arab in the crowd. Okay, but an Israeli guy who was, you know, just a few meters from him had all the time to shoot 3 times. And that costed the life of a great leader who would have led, you know, reforms between Israel and Palestine. So I would want to sue for a mixture, that the president must be allowed to continue being as accessible as possible. But in doing this, the presidential guard must recalibrate to know that they are not dealing with Moi, they are not dealing with Kibaki, they are not dealing with Uhuru, who some part of them were laid back, part of them were not accessible, part of them, you know, felt entitled to the trappings of power. They are dealing with a real hustler who would want to be out there in the crowd, and who, you know, the other challenge that the presidential guard is facing is that, unlike all those other presidents who do an event or 2 in a day, this is a president who would do, you know, 10, 12 events in diverse areas. And so the system needs to recalibrate to ensure that the presidency is protected, even within that framework, but without taking the president away from the people.
Yes. From a communications standpoint, Arnold, there's what this president has communicated to the people, the hustler nation, that this is your presidency, you can come, say hi to me, you can access me anytime you want. Do you think that is also part of the problem, that there's a generation that does not understand how previous presidents, because Uhuru Kenyatta was more or less like William Ruto in as far as interacting with people, but Mwai Kibaki, President Moi, was a different animal altogether, if I may use that. Gen Zs, for example, know that this president, you can walk to him, hug him, and do anything. Do you think that is a problem as well?
I do not think that is a problem, because as long as power has existed, power is a magnet. So you will always have people drawn to the throne, people drawn to power. That has always happened. I know we were young, but Moi had similar instances where people would actually, women shouting, men carrying files of their land, cases that had actually dragged on for long. Kibaki also had quite a number of them. It's only that we do not want to go back and look at that. Then, of course, under Uhuru Kenyatta, it became a little bit quite common. And now, with what we have, I don't think we've ever had the degree to which we now have now. I do not want to blame it to access and the open presidency. The truth is that the men that are actually guaranteed to protect the president should do their work. And so we start from this point. The president must allow the presidential escort unit and his security to do their work.
You feel he hasn't?
He hasn't. So when he tells them, achana na huyo kijana, achana na huyo, that is not his work. Rais afanye kazi yake, and the people who protect him should do their work. Why do I say that? Number one, I do not agree with how the president runs the country. But I want the president alive, secure, and properly protected. For the simple reason that, number one, the president the office he holds transcends the temporary individual that holds it. That particular office safeguards the sovereignty of the republic. And countries that have actually done gambling with the security of the head of state have actually realized that the joke was not funny. The First World War was actually fought because a monarch was killed, a heir apparent that was supposed to come in. And we've seen that over and over and over. You are not going to convince people that somehow somebody wanted to reach out. What happened in Kilifi, in Ganze on that day, is actually something that should have serious heads rolling, not just administrative action taken. Because that young man had sufficient time. Whatever need he had, that is aside, because presidential protection is much more important. Because like I've told you, that office transcends William Ruto. It's much bigger than what he does. So it's in the interest. And by the way, protecting the president is part and parcel of government continuity. Is that when you put it as a principle, you have to look at it as government continuity. So I do not want to find space and room to try and explain the failure of the presidential escort unit. I do not want us to find room, because if it were funny, there would not be the action you've seen. If it were funny, if it were easy. So we actually just need to get out and ensure that we do not gamble with the presidential security. We do not normalize that, because once we normalize that, then, you know, protecting the president is what you would call a zero-fail mission. That the first time a mistake happens could be the last time you actually have got that particular conversation. So it's quite layered, it's out there. The president needs to allow the security people to do their work, but then there is a conversation we are avoiding to have, but I'll actually bring it up. Number one, they are mamas. That number one, the people that are protecting the president are not motivated sufficiently. Those issues need to be taken care of seriously by the IG. And if you think that probably such like an argument or mama is not founded, look at how the communication of the changes was done. DIG Eliud Langad does a blue letter, says he has made these particular decisions, and then he puts out a communication. That's what you people initially received. Then Mushiri, the police spokesperson, does a follow-up statement on a white paper. And what does he say? He says the IG has communicated these particular changes, or rather has made these particular changes in the presidential escort unit. The only difference is that according to the DIG's letter, the changes, of course, cut across the presidential escort unit, the Reke subunit, and then, of course, so many other people going up to the headquarters. If these guys, even at that particular level, you can actually see a little bit of rivalry. And for security, there is no nuance.
Yes.
When you actually see that the IG and the DIG are not even in sync. So who made the changes? Was it the DIG or the IG?
All right. Interesting. And this issue of the presidential security is a big discussion, and at least it's unanimous across this entire panel that this should not happen. Even the views from the streets, people are saying that should not happen. So the redeployment, everyone agrees with it. I want us to move to a different discussion this week that dominates the front pages today. Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta on most of the front pages. He's there on the front page of the Standard, Stop Blame Game and Work. On the front page of the Daily Nation, why Uhuru has renewed war on Ruto. On the front page of the Taifa Leo, Uhuru amgonga Ruto. And even on the front page of the People Daily, he's still there talking about, what else was he saying? Uhuru to Ruto, stop divisive politics and address issues. Part of what he was talking about were recent remarks that border on ethnic profiling. And according to the retired president, this is a distraction. Let's listen into what the former president had to say.
Former President Uhuru Kenyatta appears to be making a gradual return to active politics, beginning with a high-profile Jubilee Party delegates meeting in Kiambu County Monday. The former head of state told delegates that he will personally move across the country to help stabilize and reorganize the Jubilee Party in line with its constitution. signaling a renewed hands-on role in the party's affairs ahead of the 2027 political landscape.
Lakini nimeamua tutaendelea mpaka tutimize hiyo shughuli. Na sasa mwelekeo wetu ni tuanze kule mashinani.
Addressing delegates, Uhuru said Jubilee remains committed to constitutional processes and internal reforms, despite legal and political challenges that have previously slowed efforts to reorganize the party leadership.
Kila wakati na wakati yake. Sisi tumeenda, nyinyi ndio mpo. Sisi tulijaribu kwa vile tuliweza. Nyinyi pia deal with the issue. Na issue ni simple. Wenzangu, issue ni simple.
Without naming individuals directly, Uhuru criticized political messaging. He said risk creating ethnic divisions and questioned why inflammatory remarks by some leaders continue to go unchecked.
Tumeanza kuona wengine wakianza siasa ya mgawanyiko. Na wana haya wakiongea haya, wanaongea haya mbele ya wakubwa wa nchi na wanasimama na wanaongea mambo ya kuchochea, mambo ya kulete vita, mambo ya kugonganisha Wakenya. Na hakuna mtu ambaye anasimama hapo kusema msiongee vile mnaongea. Wanaruhusiwa tu waongee yale ambao wanasema.
He maintained that Kenya's challenges go beyond ethnicity and called on leaders to protect national cohesion, while focusing on the economic hardships facing ordinary Kenyans.
Na hakuna mtu ambaye anastahili kutisha mwenzake. Hakuna mtu ambaye anastahili kutisha kabila tofauti. Sisi zote ni Wakenya na Mwenyezi Mungu anajua ni kwa sababu gani alituweka pamoja kwa nchi ambayo inaitwa Kenya.
His remarks come days after UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar issued an apology over comments made during a coastal region party engagement that drew criticisms from leaders in Mount Kenya and triggered accusations of ethnic profiling. Omar later clarified that his remarks have been misunderstood and insisted that they were intended to highlight historical land injustices in the coast region rather than promote hostility among communities.
Hadharani mchana mtu kwanza kuzungumza maneno eti huwezi kukubali kwa Kikuyu, huwezi kukubali kabila hii, huwezi kukubali. Shida ya nchi yetu sio shida ya Wakikuyu ama shida ya Wajaluo ama shida ya Wakamba ama shida ya Wakisii. Shida tuko nayo ni shida ya wananchi wote wa Kenya.
With calls for leaders to avoid divisive politics and focus on the cost of living, attention now shifts to whether Kenya's political class will move from rhetoric to addressing concerns of ordinary mwananchi. Mike Kagwongo, TV47, Kiambu County.
The NCIC also spoke yesterday and said it's actively involved in investigating the remarks by Hassan Omar. They're investigating possibility of hate speech and ethnic profiling. And it's 14 months to the next elections. We have to keep that in mind. Why would this conversation come at this time? Is it by accident? No. Because this is a UDA-SG, a spokesperson of the party, the president's party.
It is the season. And when I say it's the season where as time goes by, gloves are off. And I think in every political formation, you have the good ones and there are those that will say the unpalatable things that are said in harsh tone. Politics happen in a space whereby conversations set and create perceptions. We are now getting into a phase whereby perception means everything. You are seeking to win the hearts and minds of the voter. And at this point, the politicians get desperate and say whatever they think can be able to sell. So at the end of the day, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. It's a question of just decorum, maintaining decorum. But you will see more of this. And you will see it across the political divide, both opposition and the government side, whereby whatever will be considered unpalatable, whatever that is spoken in harsh tone. In Kenya, we have this culture of you had that thing of nyuma ya tent. If you go to a space, people frontally don't speak about issues direct as they are, bluntly as they are. But when they say nyuma ya tent is now, when you just step back outside the glare of camera out of the loud eavesdropping of everyone, then the real story is said. It is said that if you go to a funeral, you would want to know the real story of the deceased from the people sitting back there, not these ones frontal here. This frontal here, you will see all the nice, colorful things. So the same thing applies in politics.
So you're suggesting that whatever is now playing out is something that has already been discussed in other fora, probably not in front of
look, political conversations are always one. Our politics is always ethnicized. We are moving away from that, but it's still up. It's still a factor. By virtue we balkanize regions around our electoral competition, you would expect the same conversation to happen. And every government has those people, every opposition formation has those people when they speak. Do you remember in 2017, there was this hilarious combination of both opposition and government people in Pangani police station. You had Moses Kuria, you had Kimani Ngunjiri, you had Junet. It was a cocktail of them from different divide, and they were being accused of the same hate speech. And I don't think you are going to see anything different much, except that the timing now, or the challenge with now, is that with increased media space, and nowadays media is not traditional media. Just the phone is enough. Whatever you say, someone can pick. That becomes a reel, that becomes a viral clip. Unlike before, people would say things, but they get sifted through the editorial controls and all that. Now there is no editorial control. You can even speak in a function where no one was there. I don't know if you remember when, just to show you the power of how this information space has grown. Do you remember when after Gen Z protests and the cabinet had been dissolved, and the president renominated a few of them, and Duale hosted a party of some kind and called himself Simba? What was the net effect? So much bile and negativity, even saw him being transferred from the defense and taken to another environment ministry, simply because nowadays everything is captured. So you'll only see more of this. The reason why I'm saying it is something that is about to happen, and this being the season, you will always see that. So that Hassan Omar speaking the way he speaks, and these are a way of people trying also to create a name for themselves. They're also able to ring fence a space, in the sense that in every formation you will find that this one is known to be Rabarauza. The way actually Hassan Omar has taken out what Rigathi used to do for the president, because Rigathi used to be that type of a person. He would say things until people ran away. Now you have a case now, the opposition will have to create new versions of Rigathi. In the government, then Hassan Omar is auditioning to be able to speak, and they know he's the party secretary general.
Yes.
So
a spokesman of the party.
He would also come with an excuse and say, for example, in the coast, from the custodian perspective, they always speak as is. Unlike other places where you have to have nuances, you have to have what you call euphemism, they'll say custodians speak as they are.
All right. Advice, Wakili says it is a season. I thought you wanted to say that it's a season when we lose our minds. Do you agree that probably we've gotten there a bit too early this time?
I think, Fred, the only person who is honest with the conversation about not inflaming others is the Kenyan citizen himself, but not the politicians. The politicians are always acting on political expediency. And that's why you'll realize that even when Hassan says what he says, again, they will respond in equal measure in the name of trying to cascade, to point a finger at what he said. But as they point a finger at what he said, they say things that are even worse. Because in the political realm, these ones are just using, this is just a political banter to the politicians. So at the end of the day, it is not necessarily about the honesty of what they are saying. And that's why they will always move away from the real issue. Hassan Omar was actually speaking about land issues and talking about the injustice in land. Now that is a real issue. But then how he said it, because in politics again, how you say it is very, very important, sometimes more important than actually what you said. When he started by pulling the name of the former president, and then slowly mutated into the name of the community, and that just went helter-skelter. That was extremely wrong, and all of us should call that out. But we, the citizens, must actually call it out more than the politicians, and we should be able to understand that the call out from politicians is not honest. Because most of the time, they only call it out when it's the other side. When it favors me politically, that is the time I call it out. I was very surprised to see Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka saying that that is a very bad thing. And in fact, the party leader of Hassan Omar should actually be the one to be called out when he didn't want the same to be done to him when he was the party leader of Farah Maalim. Now that is the double standard. When he was the one who was able to talk about the same thing, and you remember there was a time he told a journalist that your name betrays you. At that time, he wanted to say he has been misunderstood. But quickly forward today, now he wants it to be dealt with seriously because it is now the other side. So for me, I've always argued that we as citizens must understand that when we listen to our politicians, sometimes we must have that ear to understand that, wait a minute, it's not that they are very honest, that they really do not want this. It is just that it is from the other side. And so because this one is now my opponent and it looks cool on camera for me to call it out, this is the time for us to hammer him bonker very hard. That's why you can be seeing all the blows are going to Hassan extremely. Not because the politicians calling him out are genuine, not because they are the next best bread, but it's just because it is the other side and we are now on this side.
Right. Let's listen to what people on the streets are saying about this topic. Modoni, let's come back to you now. Good morning once again. We're now discussing the issue of ethnic profiling and the remarks made by Hassan Omar. What are they saying about it?
A very good morning to you once again, Fred Indimuli, and we are coming to you live from the Bunge la Mwananchi here at Ambassador. Na kwanza ni washukuru manake wamesimamisha kikao chao ili waweze kutuongelea asubuhi ya leo. And today nimepata wakiongelelea kuhusu the retired president Uhuru Kenyatta and President William Ruto. And today we are asking, is retired President Uhuru Kenyatta justified to remain in active politics, or should retired presidents stay out of partisan politics? So I'm just going to pick out randomly. Wacha nianze na huyu kwa sababu amenifurahisha, anavaa smart. Habari yako, good morning.
Morning to you.
So what are your opinions on that?
Okay, my opinion, I would wish that let Kenyans allow the former president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, proceed and speak like just a common Kenyan. Tuache mheshimiwa ama rais aongee, kwa sababu akiongea anatoa sauti ya Wakenya. Kwa yale ambayo mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta alizungumzia, tukiangalia masuala ya matibabu ama za hospital health, wakati wa Uhuru Kenyatta unapata ile ya Linda Mama. Linda Mama ilikuwa inasaidia zaidi kushinda saa hivi ile hii mambo ya SHA yenye hata ina default. So Linda Mama ilikuwa imetusaidia. Wewe kama mwanaume kazi yako ni kuchapa kazi, alafu kazi ya mama kwenda pale hospitali na yes.
Kwa hivyo mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta achwe afanye siasa.
Exactly. Wakenya waachane na mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta afanye kazi hata kama ni active politics, kwa sababu yale ambayo anazungumzia yanatuhusu na yanatuguza kama wananchi wa kawaida.
Asante. Na nani mwingine ako na maybe uko na a different opinion? Nataka mwenye ako na different opinion. Different opinion?
Not really different.
Natafuta different opinion. Wapi? Kuja niambie different opinion. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, kwa majina naitwa Honorable Koigi David Oletigir. And to me, President Uhuru Kenyatta is justified to speak because he's a Kenyan and he has his own political rights to speak. But to me, Uhuru Kenyatta is coming in at the wrong time. If I was Uhuru Kenyatta, I would remain the father figure to this country. So if he comes the way he's coming with that advice, then he's becoming partisan when we need a father figure in the country. Honorable members, kumbuka, Uhuru Kenyatta has contributed to the mess that we have today in this country. So he has no moral authority to advise anybody in terms of economy, in terms of corruption, in terms of creating employment to the youth. Uhuru Kenyatta is part of the mess. In fact, Uhuru's presidency came in the wrong time. So Uhuru nyamaza kidogo, tubadilishe inji na Kenya iendelee.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Mimi bunge power. Kwa maoni yangu, the retired president kujihusisha na active politics, it is in constitutional rights. Tunaweza kumbuka, naona watu wa Ruto wanakwaruzika sana Uhuru kujiingiza kwa siasa. But we remember when President Moi
differed with the sitting government ya Kibaki na campaign against katiba yenye serikali ilikuwa ina push. Na watu hawakukasirika sana. So why is it now ya kwamba Uhuru akiguzia tu about the current political situation, watu wengine from UDA function wanakuaruzika? Moi was in active politics in 2005.
All right, thank you. And now I also want to hear your opinions on kuna Hassan Omar. Mlisikia his remarks? And he's being, wengine wanasema, oh, that is ethnical profiling. So what is your opinion on that?
Whatever Hassan Omar said, that is purely what happens in Kenya. And for your information, all politicians always get their mileage through political cards. And whatever Hassan Omar said, it's not new unless you are new in Kenya. But if you have been a good observer of Kenyan politics and history, all politicians, because they know they are not accountable, but the only thing that they do when campaigns are approaching is only to use their tribal cards, because they know very well it's very emotive and also it's not accountability based. So wananchi will easily forget what they had promised during the previous campaigns, and that's why it becomes so easily now to use that tribal card, to try now to push themselves, because that's how they always do over and over. So unless as a country we desist away from this tribal politics, my friends, we are getting back to 2007, like what the former President Uhuru Kenyatta did say yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, thank you. Wacha nikushikie hii.
Morning, what I can talk of. Omar was just uncouth. Such utterances are uncalled for. In fact, we need Kenya to be united, peaceful, and cohesion. So the issue of Uhuru talking yesterday was not bad as to me. He has got the right to talk as a Kenyan, due to the fact that he was a president. Does not deter him from talking on the issue of political affiliation. So he has the right and mandate to talk. There's no harm because of alarm for Uhuru talking in terms of politics when things are not going as per the required, as per the laws. So things should be done in a way that everybody is embracing, peaceful, cohesion, and we love whatever we are doing, we love our Kenya. So what I can say, he has the right to talk, the right to make a comment.
Thank you so much, Fred Ndimuli. There you have it. Those are the opinions of Kenyans here at Bunge la Mwananchi. Wanasema remarks za SG Hassan Omar, hizo za ethnic profiling, they are not good for the country. Ama namna gani? Back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, Mudhoni Brenda. I was a bit concerned initially that they wouldn't get to comment on that because that's what we're talking about here in studio. 14 months to the next general election, and comments that border on ethnic incitement, hate speech or ethnic profiling is what we're talking about today. Wakili Nyamuri, Hassan Omar is a spokesperson of the UDA party. Whatever he says, it is taken as the party's position. As a member of the UDA party, do you agree with him?
You know, Hassan is not only the Secretary General of my party. Hassan is a friend of mine, and I've known him for a long time. We were with him in students' politics in the late 1990s. And what I know about Hassan is that he takes no prisoners when he knows that he stands on a firm principle. And I have taken time to listen again and again to that clip and you know, listen to the interpretations that the media and you know, other politicians have given it. And I think that as a country we have deliberately decided to misinterpret Hassan's remarks and pursue, you know, alternative objectives. Hassan spoke very clearly, and Hassan talked about a problem that is facing this country, that we are a country that you know, places the foundation of our development on agricultural production. But for agricultural production to happen, we must sort out the long-standing historical injustice on land, because we have, you know, large swaths of land, but that the ordinary people cannot access to engage in productive, you know, agricultural work, because they are owned by absentee landlords, but who are very powerful, that whenever they are called out, they quickly mobilize their ethnic groups against that narrative. The issue is that for the ordinary person to benefit from the land as a factor of production in Kenya, we must alter the land ownership tenure and ensure that we make land in Kenya more economically productive to produce more food by ensuring that the common person everywhere in Kisumu, in Ganze, in Kiambu, in Kakamega is engaged in agricultural production by making land accessible to them, but at the same time ensuring that the benefit of that production is then redistributed across the country. That is simple economics. That is simple, principles of political economy. And that is something that Hassan has spoken to ever since I knew him in 1998. Now, the challenge is then that Hassan went forward and said that those who have grabbed land from the coastal people, who have then subjugated them and prevented them from benefiting from that land, must be called out, and that they do not belong to leadership. They actually belong to jail, and they are land thieves. Okay, they're people who have kept the coastal people, just as they have kept part of Mount Kenya and Rift Valley hungry for a long time, and in poverty and deprivation, because they are keeping to themselves thousands and thousands of acres of land. And anytime they are called out, then they would find a convenient way of mobilizing politicians and mobilizing their ethnic groups to think that it is the ethnic groups being attacked. So it is not surprising, therefore, that Uhuru Kenyatta chose Kiambu and a delegates conference that involved majorly his ethnic groups to try and then ethnicize what he should have responded to. The questions Hassan asked that Uhuru Kenyatta should face Kenyans and ask, where did the 85-year-old father of Uhuru Kenyatta work and earn money to buy thousands and thousands of acres in Kwale and other parts of the coast? Why should Uhuru Kenyatta and Uhuru Kenyatta's children and Kenyatta's grandchildren have more right to that land that traditionally and historically belonged to the people of coast, and at the expense of the people of coast who are dying in poverty? Why should Hassan, who has just voiced, the concerns of those poor people in the coastal region, be called out, and Uhuru Kenyatta is not being called out? And this, what Hassan mentioned did not come from the blues. These things exist in investigations. They exist in reports of various commissions. And therefore, my view is that the country should call out.
We're misreading Hassan Omar.
We are misreading Hassan Omar.
But
Hassan
Omar last week, he came out and did a press conference on the fuel crisis, the strike by matatus, and he also suggested and pointed a finger at a particular community and said they were incited as a community and they're the ones complaining about fuel prices. Do you think it's only about land, or is there a trend?
For us to discuss UDASG's statements, we must use a framework, and I'll choose realpolitik as the framework to respond to that. On that, number one, it has to be practical, it has to be material, and it has to be power-based. That's the only way you can actually address Hassan Omar's statements. Number one, Hassan Omar is the spokesperson of UDA. He is the mouthpiece for the regime. What does he do? He speaks about voices out the party policies, party direction, and programs. He is the chief advocacy officer for the party. I want to start from the point by saying that, number one, Hassan Omar is innocent. Completely innocent. Hassan Omar, the person, is innocent. Because Hassan Omar does not speak of his own accord. Because what does he do? When he invites you people, he invites you as the SG of UDA. So what Hassan Omar is actually communicating is the UDA policy. Is the party program. It is what the regime has actually given as direction. Hassan did not call you, and when he spoke, by the way, it's not just about land. Hassan has actually been on this for a lot more times than we are willing to actually discuss here. He's continuously done that. But is Hassan Omar actually removed from what is happening within that particular end? No. When we had the transport sector impasse the other day, no one else other than the CS for Interior, a man who is in charge of our security, intelligence coordination, law and order, actually made nuances to the similar way of looking at things. We've seen MPs like Oscar Sudi, for example. He's raised that. No other person other than the majority leader of the Senate, like Aaron Cheruiyot, he's spoken about that. So Hassan, as an individual, is innocent. Hassan is speaking the UDA policy. He is communicating it fluently. So we should not bash Hassan for simply doing his work as the spokesperson of UDA. So the people who actually are attacking Hassan are doing shadowboxing. Those are simply messengers. Who is the owner of this particular message? Definitely it's the regime. And who leads the regime? It's the president. Where did this come from? It came from the point Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. What is actually happening here? That's why I said the framework I used to discuss this is realpolitik. That number one, I'm going to be very practical about why that actually happens. Number two, I'll have to be very material. And number three is that it has to be power-based. Okay. So there's the game around divide and rule. So number one, the president, of course, postures as if he's a friend to Mount Kenya. But you see, they have to scare Mount Kenya in a way so that then they have to actually win them back. So Hassan is speaking what the party has actually been communicating very, very fluently. And President Uhuru Kenyatta is coming out to tell us the obvious. I know it's the headlines here, but President Uhuru Kenyatta is telling us the obvious. The number one, this administration has made, they think that governance is spinning, so we're going to take a lot of time spinning, going round. And number two, that divide and rule is also a way of how you administer policy. So if it has to take Uhuru Kenyatta, a man who literally was hounded out of office 3 years ago, to actually look right, be clapped for, if President Uhuru Kenyatta has to look right today, it really means we're doing badly. And that is where we are. That this administration is doing so badly that Uhuru Kenyatta is telling us the obvious. Of course, we know that this administration thinks that governance is spinning. So you're going to have a lot of talking heads. You're going to have a lot of people coming out there to just try and spin. And that to them, they think that is governance. The other thing of it, they look at dividing and ruling as a way of doing policy, including what Hassan is actually doing. So I do not think that we really need to waste a lot of time talking about Hassan Omar. Hassan Omar, the individual, is actually innocent. It is the UDA policy. It's President William Ruto's. And when Hassan actually spoke, the president was seated there. So we can nuance, and he didn't do anything. Yes. But that Hassan has actually come out and now the most important part to look at is that Hassan actually has found it necessary, of course, out of pressure, to come and do, quote unquote, a clarification. It means one thing. My brother and friend, who was my former boss, Malala, will swear that the things he was saying during that time had actually been sanctioned by the president. When
he was SG of UDA.
When he was SG. Right. Hassan is also my former boss before I moved out. And I'm so sure from where he sits, he can actually swear that whatever he's doing, he has got the power of the backing. But then there is a Swahili saying that ukitaka nguruwe unachagua aliyenona. I think they are fattening Hassan for slaughter.
A final comment, only 60 seconds from on the same. It says it's a UDA policy now, whatever Hassan Omar said. And it's not just about the land. Other comments he's made.
The UDA policy is that we must reform, the land tenure. We must make land productive. We must allow, the common man to access and use land, and that we must ensure that we increase the food production and the benefit that comes from land. Right. And that is something that I think Kenyans have spoken about. UDA will continue to pursue it. And the UDA is doing it across the country. And that UDA will still sue for, national unity and call upon politicians who want to protect themselves against accountability, especially with regard to theft of land, to stop hiding behind their ethnic groups and to come out and explain when they have millions of acres of land.
For example, believe that the Matatu strike has something to do with one community.
I'm talking about land in this regard. On Matatu strike, you know that the government has engaged the stakeholders and the issues have been clarified, and that the government has, you know, spent in excess of 13 billion shillings in subsidy. The government has, you know...
Now, the question is, do you think it has anything to do with a community, a particular community?
The issue is the pain in the fuel issue is affecting every Kenyan, and every Kenyan is concerned. However, the political mobilization that then led to disruption of transport in certain parts of the country is politics, and politics laced with ethnicity. You remember that there were disruptions of traffic yesterday. Those traffics, if you look at the footprints of those disruptions, it had nothing, you cannot explain it to anything but ethnicity, because it is not that drivers and vehicle owners in Mount Kenya are feeling more pain than Kisumu, Kakamega, and the rest of the country.
Thank you, Kelly. Advice, final comment.
Thank you, Fred. I think my final comment, I would want my friend Maliba to also clarify, because I've sat with him on this panel severally. And he says his bosses receive instructions from somewhere. I don't know whether he was also receiving instructions when he was...
I think that's the admission he made, that while he was there, he had to receive instructions.
Or he had to receive instructions, because it also speaks more about the people receiving than the one giving. Because if you are in position of leadership, but you can take instructions of whichever magnitude, then it speaks more also about yourselves. But in finishing, I would love to say that in our country, all former leaders always look like, because they don't have the burden of responsibility, they suddenly look nice. Because all of us have always loved our former leaders. Every time a leader is not in office, they look very nice. Why? Because they do not have the benefit of the burden of responsibility. That's why today, President Uhuru Kenyatta would be able to posture like he has all the solutions to this country. But when he was in office, he went away, he even ran away from social media, because he could not answer the very questions he's now asking government to answer. So at the end of the day, we have to get to ourselves to a point where we must recognize that the person with the burden of responsibility will always be the one that will be hit at. And the only way for us to move forward is to understand it that way and push them to deliver more than using it for political expediency.
Thank you so much. Finally, Wakili.
Okay, thank you very much. I think for my final comments, as I've said, it is the season. And what then should be the part of the voter is to pick out issues or agendas that are of concerns. Politics is dynamics. Whatever is spoken about, it's about shaping narratives. And that's why you'll see political operatives will speak whatever they speak with a view of shaping narrative. And thanks to the nature of our politics, that is, of course, has an aspect of ethnic balkanization, you'll always have these comments that almost go borderline in terms of insightful. What then should happen is that the political class can keep that straight and narrow path. There's a way you can discuss issues, and I like how Joshua Nyamori has tried to speak about it. If you talk about land issues, you can be able to speak about it, and that can be done, and you can target individuals without bringing a nuance of the community. Number two, the reaction also, because, you know, it's two sides of the coin. One person will speak about an agenda, but another side will say we are being targeted. So it's a question of conversations and trying to shape narrative. The beauty, we are in an information space and age, and we have a society and a generation that is tech savvy in a way they can sieve through the details. Maybe the last thing I'll finish, I think, as I was coming in the morning, my small girl is turning 4 years. So I told her when I'll come around, I'll tell her happy birthday, Zara. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Zara. Thank you so much, Wakili Joshua Kipto, Advice Mundalo, who's a leadership and communication expert, Wakili Joshua Nyamori, and Arnold Maliba, who's a party leader, Progress Plus Alliance. And I guess now you're taking instructions only from yourself as a party leader.
Leader and the principal.
All right. Giving instructions.
Now he's the one giving instructions,
Right.
not receiving instructions.
Thank you so much for your time at TV47. After the break, we switch gears and talk matters law. We'll be having Advocate of the High Court, Ruth Tanui, discussing domestic violence and protection orders. And then later on the show, the future of biashara, digital and tech opportunities changing how Mwananchi makes money. It's a question we're asking. Keep it here, TV47. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.